Hi everyone, and welcome to the third video in the series, which is titled Header Code. So this is the code that you will almost always have at the top of your game file. Certainly when you first get started. As you get more into it down the line, you'll probably start to tinker with it a little bit. And in fact, for certain projects that you might want to do, it's not even entirely necessary to have all of this there. But as we're starting, really what I want to do with this series is sort of get you up and running so that you could create a game like The King's Ransom, which is one that I'll be referring to fairly regularly as a demo game. So header code, what is it? Well, basically, if we just go to share my screen, I'll show you two things. Firstly, this is and I'm using Visual Studio Code, which I would highly recommend that you get, mostly because it actually recognizes ZIL and model, and therefore what it will do is just highlight the brackets for you. If I click there, it tells me that it's got a bracket, and as the code starts to get more complex, down here, for example, it'll highlight where things are. If I click on that, it just tells me where the opening and closing brackets are. That's really useful, in all honesty, for any programming language, but it's certainly useful for ZIL because it is a Lisp dialect, effectively. And if anybody knows anything about Lisp languages, you'll know that people love parentheses and brackets and all sorts of stuff like that. So back to the main topic, which is the header code. So what I'm actually going to do as well is point out when you download it under sample, you get one called empty, and this one, if I double click this contains purely the code to get you started. Now this would actually compile. So as it stands now, as I mentioned in the last video, you can compile fairly early on in the process, and this code that you see on your screen now is enough to compile. It would create a little room, put you in that room, and then immediately you could start typing things like examine me, inventory, jump, northwest, east, south. It wouldn't go anywhere because the directions aren't. You haven't created any extra rooms, but fundamentally, thanks to the parser, everything would be there, parser and verbs, and then with this is the opening code that you would have in the game. Now, in all honesty, I would just at this point recommend not typing this in from scratch. It's in empty.zil. In fact, just as a little bit of a tip, I would be more tempted actually from the sample directory to use something like cloak, because what that does is straight away provides you with other code that is useful, because it provides you with objects and routines and fully fleshed out rooms with directions. So that's a really good thing just to create and just save you a little bit of time typing everything out. But if you did want to type it, okay, great, go for it. At the top you would just have the name of the file. That's literally, you could just type absolutely anything you want in there. Version, now this refers to the version of Z machine that you would run. As a standard, it's zip, which is version 3, and for a lot of your games that's absolutely fine. I'm a fan of version 5, and one of the reasons for that is mainly because it's easier in version 5 to remove the status line at the top, which is something that I like to do. In version 3, it's always there. In version 5, it's something that you can actually remove. Constant is just a release ID. It's just that's your release version that you can type in. Again, we've got here main loop. That's just comments. You type anything in there really. Rooms, objects, routines, whatever you want to do. It's just a comment to yourself. You can type absolutely anything in there. Game banner, empty game, an interactive fiction by author's name. And then we get to the routine itself. So this is critical. This is the main routine that kicks everything off and gets you started. So routine, go. That is effectively, these are like paragraphs, if you like, to give you spacing between the text. So this obviously bumps it down a couple of lines. In fact, I think I can show you rather than tell you. Let me just try to run the game. So if I go back into King's Ransom, fire it up. Actually, not the best example having said that, because obviously I've removed my status line, but effectively you can see you've got a bit of gap there and there, so it's just to space it out. So let's go back into VS Code. So introductory text, the version, that is a version that tracks it. So when you're creating the game, and again, let me see if I can give you a better example actually. When you're creating it, here we go, you'll get all this code at the top and you'll get this version stuff down here. So release 1, serial number, the library, and that will appear automatically on the screen if you choose to insert the version in there. You can take that out. I tend to take it out, to be honest, at this stage. Then it sets up the here, basically start room, move player here. So what this does is from now on, actually here will always refer to the start room, and move player here, which means move the player in the first room. Look, this means that as soon as it goes, it will issue out a command to look. So that's what makes it sort of describe here. You're standing in a spacious hall, splendidly decorated red and gold, etc., etc. If you didn't have that there, you'd effectively just start with a cursor on the screen, and then that kicks off the main loop section. So insert file, you will always have to have it insert file parser. That's something that you will have every time, and as you start to develop on, you probably have multiple game files because you want to break it down a little bit. So you might have one, perhaps you've got different chapters to the game if you've structured it like that, or maybe you've got multiple areas. Perhaps you want to code it so that each of your areas are separated out by a game file. Perhaps you might want to have a dedicated game file for a particular NPC that you've developed, so you'll want to have individual files. It just saves having it, because otherwise it can tend to grow. I mean, even there's not much in here, but really already, look, you've got quite a bit to be cycling through there. And if you imagine that this is a tiny game created for demo purposes, and also there are additional game files as well. So in here, that's in empty, then objects. As soon as you get past this point, you're into the game, and from this point on, anything you can create is the rooms. Now, I won't. What I will be doing in the next video is actually this kind of code. I will be typing it out, because it's good when you get started to do that, so that you can actually get your brain around it. Copying and pasting is fine for time saving, but eventually you get to a point where you don't really actually learn the code. You just sort of vaguely remember in your head, oh yeah, I need object code, and then you end up just copying and pasting every time. I think it's fine for this opening text, because this is available in any game file that you've got has got it, and you can use this as a template. So I would definitely have that. So if I can show you a little example on here, so I actually commented that out, took out the version, which just means that if you compare the two, so here, look, Cloak of Darkness, you get this basic IF demonstration, original game by Roger Firth, blah, 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 blah. If you now compare that with the King's Ransom game, you just get the opening statement at the top. You don't get any of that kind of malarkey, which is, in my opinion, quite nice. Obviously, in this game as well, you get the status bar at the top, score, moves, and the name of the room that you're in. You haven't got that on the King's Ransom because, again, I've taken it out. Now, how have I taken it out? Well, that we need to cover in a slightly later video, because it isn't simply by commenting it out. The only thing commenting the version out will do is, again, it will take this bit out, the Cloak of Darkness and all this kind of malarkey here. It won't actually remove the status line. That's something that I need to actually work on, actually, because at the moment, I'm afraid it's not quite as simple as just commenting something out. But it will be in time, but we're not quite there yet. So it's something that you have to edit in the parser, and I don't want to go there just yet. We'll do that in time. But anyway, that's it really. So opening text. So again, version at the top. So Ransom. If you look, I had xzip. In version, you've got X and Y, and there's all sorts that you can do. You can Google it to find out. For the most part, zip and xzip will be the ones I think people will be focusing on, because if you want your game to run on something like the ZX Spectrum Next, then the biggest file type that you can have, biggest game machine version type that you can have is version 5, which is XZIP. I would just go straight to XZIP. I think it just looks nice, and it allows you, to remove the status line if you want to do it, which you can't do in version 3. So again, you've got your main loop section. That's just a comment. This section is the game banner that would appear at the top, which is in here. The game banner. It's just a comment. Actually, what is that? It's just the section at the top here, and then the main routine, which is routine go, paragraph space, introductory text, version, again, print all that version text that we spoke about, set the global value of here, set it to start room, and then move the player here. Now, actually doing that means that the value of here is always start room. So that's, you probably want to play around with that a little bit as you build your game out to allow you to do certain commands. But at the moment, that's absolutely fine to create that. Look, it forces it to have to run the command look. As soon as you start the game, that means that it's going to print the room description. And then insert file is your parser file, and eventually you might want to add extra game files in there. So again, as an example, if I click across to here, I'm giving you, that's a bad example because I haven't actually done it in this one. It's not a great example. Come on, Adam, I'll find a better example than that. This is one that I worked on, didn't get too far in it, but I think it should show us. Yeah, look, you got loads down here. So this one, for example, I've got loads. So yeah, it's just basically, and these are all actually MPC files, but I've also got one called Verbs Plus for little weird and wonderful commands that I've just built into the game myself. Right, and that's it. So hopefully that makes sense. A little bit longer this video than I'd planned, but just wanted to cover off a few things regarding that header code. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, let me know. I'm happy to try and re-record the video, make it a bit more succinct if I need to. But for now, I will see you in the next video. Take care.